The story opens not with hope but with escape because Jake Sully is already running before we even know what he's running from: a broken former Marine confined to a wheelchair carrying the weight of a life that ended before it truly began. When his twin brother dies, Jake is offered a chance that sounds like redemption but smells like manipulation. Travel to Pandora, a distant moon rich in a mineral worth more than human life itself, a world so beautiful it feels unreal and so dangerous it kills you the moment you breathe wrong. Jake agrees not because he believes in the mission but because he has nothing left on Earth, and that is when everything changes: the moment his consciousness slips into an avatar body, a genetically engineered hybrid built to look like the native Na'vi, and for the first time in years he stands, he walks, he runs, and the feeling is intoxicating. Freedom floods him like a drug, and Pandora welcomes him with colors that burn into the eyes: glowing forests, floating mountains, creatures that seemed designed by imagination itself. But this world is not a paradise, it is a battlefield waiting to happen. Jake's mission is simple on paper: gain the trust of the Na'vi, learn their ways, and feed information back to the human military corporation preparing to strip the land of its resources. But from the first step into the jungle, the planet resists him, as if Pandora itself is watching, testing, judging. A predator attacks and chaos erupts until Neytiri appears, silent, lethal, and furious. She saves Jake's life but sees him as nothing more than a demon in full skin, and would have killed him if the forest had not spoken through glowing seeds drifting down and touching Jake, marking him as chosen by something greater than either of them. Confused and shaken, Neytiri takes Jake to her people against her better judgment, and from that moment Jake's loyalty begins to fracture. Living among the Omadakea clan, Jake is forced to learn humility, survival, and respect. Neytiri becomes his teacher, pushing him beyond weakness, beyond fear, beyond the lies he has lived with. She teaches him to listen to the world, not dominate it, to feel the pulse of Pandora through the earth, through the trees, through the sacred connections binding all living things. And as Jake learns to ride the creatures of the sky, to hunt, to fight, to love, he starts to realize that the mission he was sent to complete will destroy everything that now gives his life meaning. But the clock is ticking, because every night he returns to his human body and reports back to Colonel Quaritch, a man who believes that strength is violence and peace is submission. Quaritch prepares for war and sees the Na'vi not as people but as obstacles, and Jake is the key to breaking them. As Jake grows closer to Neytiri, their bond deepens into something dangerous, because love changes allegiance, and Jake is no longer pretending when he speaks the Na'vi language, when he laughs among the clan, when he feels at home under alien stars. But the truth cannot stay buried forever, and when the humans decide it is time to act, Jake is forced to choose between the people who gave him a new body and the people who own the technology keeping him alive. The moment of betrayal hits like a blade. The Na'vi discover Jake's true identity and his role in the coming destruction, and Neytiri's pain is worse than anger, it is heartbreak. Jake is cast out, stripped of trust, stripped of belonging, stripped once again of purpose, as the human machines move in and the sky fills with fire. The destruction of Neytiri is not just an attack, it is an execution. Ancient life collapses, screams echo through the forest, and Jake watches helplessly as the world he fell in love with burns because of information he provided, and that guilt becomes the fuel for his transformation, because for the first time Jake stops running and decides to fight, not as a soldier following orders but as a man choosing who he wants to be. He returns to the Na'vi not begging for forgiveness but offering himself fully to their cause, knowing he may die trying, and in a final act of defiance he bonds with the mighty Tawaryuk, the legendary aerial predator, a symbol of unity and leadership, proving that he is no longer just a human in disguise but something new, something chosen, something dangerous. As Jake returns riding to Tawaryuk, the tide begins to turn, hope ignites among the clans, and Neytiri sees the truth in his actions. Even if the wounds are still open, war is now inevitable. The humans are coming with everything they have, and Pandora itself seems to hold its breath, because the next battle will decide not only who controls the land but whether a broken man can truly be reborn in a world that was never meant for him. The war does not begin with explosions, it begins with silence, the kind that makes the jungle feel like it is holding its breath as Jake stands before the gathered clans, knowing that words alone will not erase betrayal, but action might, and when he speaks it is no longer as a visitor or a spy but as someone who chose this world, knowing it may cost him everything. The Tawaryuk's shadow crosses the ground and the clans unite because symbols matter in war and hope needs a face. Neytiri stands beside him to warn between love and lost, trust broken yet not completely gone, and as the drums echo through the forest, Pandora prepares for a battle unlike any it has ever seen. The humans arrive with fire and metal and absolute certainty in their own superiority. Gunships slice through the sky, missiles tear into ancient land, and Colonel Quaritch leads the assault with a smile that only appears when destruction feels justified. The Na'vi fight back not with technology but with unity. Beasts of the land and air join the battle as if answering a call older than memory. Arrows meet bullets, courage meets steel, and for a moment it seems impossible that the living world can survive against machines built only to kill. But Pandora is not passive. The planet fights back. Vines drop, metal beasts, predators swarm the sky, and the balance shifts not because of strategy but because the land itself has chosen a side. Jake and Neytiri fly through chaos, losing allies with every passing second. Pain becomes constant, death becomes normal, and still they push forward because surrender means extinction. Quaritch crashes into the heart of the battlefield, fueled by rage and obsession. He hunts Jake personally, seeing him as a traitor worse than any enemy, and their confrontation strips away all illusions. This is no longer about resources or orders, it is about dominance and survival. Neytiri is wounded. Jake is forced back into his fragile human body, and the illusion of strength shatters as Quaritch stalks him, knowing one breath without protection is death. In the most vulnerable moment of his life, Jake fights not with power but desperation, while Neytiri returns, unleashing a fury born of love and lost, defeating Quaritch but not without cost, because victory never comes clean. When the battle ends, the humans are defeated and sent away, stripped of their claim and their control, but the scars remain, and Jake faces the final choice: stay human and return to a world that never truly wanted him, or abandon his old body forever for a life that finally feels real. The ritual begins. Candles glow, prayers rise, and the entire clan gathers as Jake lies motionless between worlds, suspended between who he was and who he has become, and for a terrifying moment nothing happens until his eyes open, not human, not borrowed, but truly Na'vi, and in that silent instant the story completes its circle. A broken man who arrived running has finally found where he belongs, not because he conquered a world but because he listened to it, and as Jake looks into Neytiri's eyes, Pandora breathes again, alive, undefeated, and watching, because this was never just a battle for land, it was a test of whether humanity could learn to live as part of something greater, and the question lingers long after the screen fades to black.